Okay, I'm going to open the Selectmen's meeting for Monday, October 15th. Yep. So, like, one of the most technically savvy people I know, you never can get a microphone to turn on. I'm going to start with some announcements. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on local cable channels and on the internet. Fall special town meeting is October 22nd. Please come. We need a quorum. It is at 7 p.m. at the Annex, which is right next to this building. There will be cookies served. Not really, but I'm trying to get people there. Saturday, October 27th. Early voting during regular business hours commencing on October 22nd and ending November 2nd. Saturday, October 27th hours will be from 9 to 1. Fall National Drug Take-Back Day, October 27th, is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that will be at the West Newbury Police Station. Trick or Treat will be October 31st this year, and it will be from 5:30 to 7:30. The Board of Assessors and Council on Aging information sessions on tax abatements for senior citizens, veterans, and disabled will be on Wednesday, November 14th at noon. Lunch will be served, and Wednesday, December 5th at 5:30, both at the Council on Aging. Please RSVP to Teresa at the Council on Aging at 978-363-1104 or at COA@WNEWBURY.org. Joe, do you have any other announcements, or Archie?
No.
Angus? Great, let's get ready. Well,
May I make a comment on that?
you need to use a microphone, but yes, you may. I'm not sure on what, but...
I just want to make a comment on the take-back drugs, that the
Got it.
poster listed coming into the town offices did not state the location.
I'm sorry, can you start the sentence over again, please?
You have a poster downstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't say where you could drop the drugs off. I
We-
heard where you said tonight, but I think the poster should also say.
I would agree with that, and we'll have that changed tomorrow. Is that okay, guys? Thank you. Okay, let's start our regular business. Vote proclamation for the National Friends of the Library Week, October 21st to the 28th, 2018. Is anybody here representing the library on that behalf of the proclamation? Angus, is there anything that you want to say about that?
Simply that Susan Babb, the library director, brought to my attention that her board would be adopting this proclamation, and I suggested it might be good for this board to do the same, to give it a higher profile.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Archie?
No.
Joe? Okay, does somebody would like to make that?
I'll make a motion to adopt October 21st through October 21st as National Friends of Libraries Week. Want me to read the proclamation?
If it's...
It's kind of long.
No. Unless somebody wants to hear it. Okay.
So I'll read the last line.
Yep.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the trustees of West Newbury Library and the West Newbury Board of Selectmen proclaim October 21st through 28th, 2018 as Friends of Library Week in West Newbury, and urges everyone to join the Friends of the Library and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Do we have like a announcement section on our website or something? So why don't we put that up on the announcement section that the selectmen, you probably are going to do that, but just, I know, so that we did, and then we can put it through all of our social media, and then it can get the, visibility that they're looking for, and so on. Wait, Joe?
So you made a motion, right?
Yep. You want to second it?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Sign warrant for the November 6th election.
Is there a warrant actually signed?
Mike, is this,
Do we have to move it or just sign it?
No, you have to move, just like it's regular town meeting warrant, so you
We
just,
accept the warrant.
I move to approve the November 6th state election warrant.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No? If not, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
We can sign it after.
Correct. We'll sign that. Without anything else, we need to sign that. Resident requests for fee waiver for use of town property 6 times or more per year. Okay,
6 times or more, or is it over 6?
over 6. Why don't you come on up? Please state your name, even though we all know you, please, and try to speak as close into that microphone as you can. Hi.
Hi, I'm Linda Schaefer. I'm here to look at having early intervention use town space for greater than 6 times this year. I've sent a letter and request for 2 dates in particular.
So this is the conversation we had before. So is there a reason why you're using West Newbury and not other places? Or is it, I think that's something that we asked.
Anybody?
Yeah, we actually ask everybody that.
Well, a few reasons. One
Thank
is we're located here in town. Our staff, this is a central location for them. We service 11 communities, so on the road, this is the easiest location for everybody to come to for a meeting. But I have used space other than town space when I can. I have used Merrimack Library when available. I also use the police station, the public safety complex, which is town space, but it's not one of your listed spaces. If I'm doing a presentation with a PowerPoint or something like that. But there's certainly limited options around. So that is why I tend to use the town space when no other space is available to me.
Are these 2 dates, is that it for 2018 or?
Probably not. I haven't figured the whole year out.
Okay, I just wondered where you were.
Yeah. In January, I'm hoping to use something at NECO. They allow me to use that as a state program. But that's, there are a lot of logistics around that. So I can't predict all the dates.
The reason why we kind of put a cap on it, because we started becoming a rental facility probably like 2 years ago, because we noticed that other towns were restricting usage of their town conference rooms and their meeting places, and it's kind of putting a stress on the infrastructure and putting a stress on employees. Stress in the sense
Our
that
maintenance person.
yeah, there was just an uptick, and almost, they came to us and said, hey, it seems like we just turned into a rental facility, and you want me to do this, 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 but you can't I can't be resetting the room and doing this and cleaning it, and now the brand-new carpet that we put in over there is now all stained because of so many functions. It's turned into a function room, quite honestly, which isn't bad, and we thought that was our reasoning behind it. And we didn't want to say no to people because it is a town facility. So we said, hey, listen, we thought,
And we had not said no to anybody.
no, and we thought it would fair if we just kind of put a cap on it so people would know that it's still a town facility also.
Also, they'd have to actually come in.
I didn't see it as a cap, as it just as an opportunity to have a conversation.
So you're saying that you're asking for 2 more dates over the 6th, and you
One
potentially,
is the 6th, as far as I know, and one is the 7th.
and then potentially you could be coming
I
forward
could
to us
have-
for even more.
3 other requests this year. Hard to know. I mean, one of the things that made this year extraordinary was the fact that we need to have CPR and first aid training. And that was a heavy hitter, so I had to rent 4 days, which are not normally typical days that we do for
And we do
town
have
business.
groups in here, like we had the State Fire Service group in here for like 18 or 20 times this year.
Yep, we did, and because that was
Helping our personnel.
helping our personnel and kind of saying, and the last time it was in Groveland, and I know that we sent personnel to Groveland, so it was like, hey, you're going to host it, we'll host it, and we had our own.
Just making the point that other people.
Right.
But that was part of the discussion when we approved that.
And one of the things that's changed now in the recent years is that we have to set up and clean up, and we bring trash out, and we take
Yep.
out our recycling. So in terms of the maintenance issue, I can't imagine there's a lot. I mean, when we use the space, we tend to clean up after.
Yeah, but,
so.
yeah, I understand, but we move tables just to get, so I would agree with that. And, but we move tables all around town, so.
Sure.
In chairs and stuff, because we don't have enough, like the Apple Harvest Road Race, they used our space, this Saturday, and there wasn't enough tables for what they requested, so then we had to go move them down, then we have to go move them back, so if you request tables to make sure there's enough, we would have to have personnel move them around. There is an added thing, I'm not saying.
Potential.
But it is better than it was, and I would agree with that. And we haven't had any complaints, no latex balloons on the ceiling after these people leave that we can't get down for a week and a half. But no, that's happened.
Listen, I've seen things up there myself.
Yeah, I'm just.
And been like, what is?
What do you want to do?
I move to approve the Kentucky Early Intervention request to use the annex in excess of 6 times for 2018.
I'm not going to second that. Because I thought we were just approving the 2 dates. So you're going to give that an open invitation for her to approve, so they could.
She said that she doesn't know a number, but probably there'll be a couple or more. So
Yes.
why come back again to discuss 2 more?
Well, she said 3, but I understand.
But we don't know. I can't.
I
predict.
understand your point.
I kind of would like to do the 2, and
Well, why don't we say the 2 and give her 2 more, so we don't
So
have.
if I exceed 4, these plus 2, then I would come back to
So
with you,
10.
which I think I could probably
So 6
manage.
plus 4 is 10, so
Yeah.
capping it at 10.
That's fine.
And
Angus?
part of the request before you was a fee waiver, because as you know, a nonprofit gets the fee waived, but where it's above 6, that's actually what triggers it in the policy.
Including a fee waiver.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe we don't do the fee waiver and she can come as many times as she wants after 6.
Well, that would be a hardship.
But they're a nonprofit.
I would be happy to pay a small fee.
We're all non, I mean,
When,
Mass General Hospital's a nonprofit, and they're making billions.
well, they're not really.
But they are.
Please.
But they are, right?
Harvard University is a nonprofit.
Yeah, exactly, so they are, so.
They're nonprofits and they're nonprofits.
See, the reason why I ask all these questions and I have to think it through, because when we say yes to you, I have to personally say yes to everybody. So in a
That's the thing, we're not trying to be
We're
difficult,
not trying to be, I'm trying to work this out.
there are
Necessarily.
5,000 nonprofits that would love to
Sure.
get stuff for free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And that's part of the issue too, so like if we have the Boy Scouts use the facility, we're gonna charge them after 6 times in a year?
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just, I threw something out there for discussion. I didn't say I liked it or didn't like it, I'm just saying, this is the time to discuss
Yeah.
everything that comes out, and then, that this is good discussion, you're correct with that.
Just saying, not necessarily now, but at a certain point, we can't say yes to everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing.
problem.
Sure.
Okay.
And we were getting complaints from people, because some people then were using it too much, and then other people couldn't use it. And like, you know what I mean by that? So then we were trying to spread the joy by putting a cap on it. I don't know. Okay, so give me the motion against Joe, because
I move to approve the Pawtucket Early Intervention use of facilities for up to 10 times in 2018 with a fee.
And not tonight, no, not 2018, 20 through
Oh, you mean the FY19?
FY
It's
18.
FY19.
that will end in January.
Let me just read the section of the policy. So no rental fee for use of facility up to 6 times per calendar year. This is under the nonprofit section. Nonprofit organizations or groups that request to use a town facility more than 6 times per year and requesting to waive the fee must receive approval from the board. So it's per calendar year.
Calendar year when you set up the.
I actually meant a fiscal year, so our fiscal year is, July to June.
We're talking about a calendar year.
So, okay, this will be it until 2019. I am done.
So 2 times. So.
No, it's actually only one time, because
No.
she's before us with 2, but one of them reaches
the
the
6th.
threshold, and then the next one. So yes, just say, as much as, up to,
Is 7 your number for this calendar year?
For the calendar year, that is correct.
Okay.
I deal in fiscal
I move to
years, so
approve the Pawtucket Early Intervention
Second.
What are you frustrated
Thank
about?
you.
Boy, it's the fourth time I've said it.
Oh. Well, we want to get it right, don't we?
So, wait a minute, let me, to be clear for me, so that means starting January 2019, it's the new?
The clock starts again.
So I
Start-
could start again, and then I could really plan out how not to
You can
do
start,
six.
you can start again in
Okay,
January
that's
1st,
perfect.
up to 6 times without getting approval from us.
Perfect.
I would request that if you can direct people to park in the rear parking lot,
Yep, they all
that would be
park back there, that is,
out by the fields or out.
yeah, well, behind the annex is where I
Yes,
always park.
good.
Yeah.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Appointment of the DPW Director, interview candidate recommended by the town manager. Can we change this? You don't mind if we move this until next meeting, do you? Come on up.
Thank you.
You always start off, try to break the ice, and then
You gotta
it
do
helps
better-
with
you gotta
all
do
the...
better than that.
I do have, well, I'm practicing.
I got a little sense of humor too.
Okay.
And I think it's part of his presumptive or job to break the ice, right?
There you go, no pun intended. So, actually, how I would like this to work, Angus, if you could maybe give us a little bit of background of how brief of where we've been and how we've got to this point.
That, good point, yeah.
And then we're going to ask Wayne some questions, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so upon receiving outgoing Director Gary Bill's letter of retirement back in August, I worked with the board to update the job description to make sure that the advertised job description matches what we need going forward. We did that pretty promptly, got a good job description out there. We recruited through the paper and through MMA primarily, and we got just short of about 25 applicants. I went through everyone, screened them, and interviewed 7 candidates, and brought forward 2 finalists, both of which I met with last week. A couple of detailed interviews. I know you have the questions in front of you, and very pleased to recommend Wayne Amaral. He is the Deputy Director in Newburyport and has decades of experience in larger systems than here. Part of what we talked about is the adjustment to a smaller system. I think he's got his head around that well, but you can talk with him about that. So because of the conflict of laws, perhaps, between the town manager legislation and the 2005 DPW legislation, there's a case to be made that it's my appointment under one, it's the board's appointment very clearly under the other. So the process that we had agreed to early on is that I would manage the process, bring forward an appointment, but that appointment would also need to be ratified by this board. So that's where we are in the process. And I have notified the candidate that in the event this board did not appoint, that I would bring forward a second candidate. But obviously, that's not my goal.
Okay. Do either of you have questions for Angus about the process?
No.
Okay. So at this time, I think in the meeting is that we'd like to maybe ask you some questions.
Sure.
Because the buck kind of stops with us, so to speak. So,
Before, Mr. Chairman, before we start that process, does Wayne want to give us like any kind of introduction, tell us about yourself?
Sure. I've been working for the public sector since I was 16 and a half. I started as an intern in Public Works in Somerville. I worked there for 9 or 10 years, moved over to Cambridge. I took a traffic engineer's job without a degree, and they let me go get it as I was doing engineering because they thought my experience outweighed the college degree at the time. And I moved up from assistant traffic engineer to director of traffic operations and engineering. And it was a great 15 years there, but I think my wife and I were looking for something different than living in the Boston area, so we wanted to move up north because it's where we like being. And I challenged her, or she challenged me to get a job up north here, and then we'd move. And I went and got a job up in Newburyport, and we moved up here, and this is where we like to be. This is where we're bringing our children up. So I've been in Newburyport for 4 years now, and I'm prepared and ready from what I've learned in over the last feels like 30 years in Public Works to be a number one and lead a Public Works department into the future.
Okay. Archie, do you have some questions?
Sure. Mr. Emerald, tell me, you've been in Somerville or Newburyport. Here, and Angus touched on this, but we're like the boutique department, okay, obviously. And so is it going to be difficult to transition to where maybe there aren't things that you can delegate that you actually have to hands-on do yourself? In other words, obviously, we're a much smaller department than these other municipalities. So do you think that's going to be good for you, or are you going to like that, or just tell me how you think it'll adjust to that?
Thanks, good question. I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm a little bit of a micromanager, and I always did things myself. I'm not a delegated type of person. I had staff working for me, but everything I've done before. I've never given anybody something I've never done myself. So I've always had to do things even from scratch. And the departments that I have worked with started out small, and as I was spending more time there and I was developing the department, we hired more people. But in Cambridge, I started with only 3 of us, and by the time I left, there was 7 of us who was in the engineering department. So I allowed it to grow, but at the time when I walked in the door, I was doing everything from admin to writing ordinances to doing work orders, working nights. It's part of the job, and I don't see any problem with a transition if I'm going from that to this. I'm going to be still full out, working many hours, doing everything here. I don't see a problem with that. I do it. It's part of the job.
I got a couple more.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I would say the DPW director is one of the most visible town employees that we have. One of the reasons being some of the interactions people have with the town are, or their only interaction is, the plow filled up my driveway or whatever, something to that effect. And also, a lot of our biggest capital expenditures are DPW equipment or projects that the DPW person would be overseeing. So tell me about how you've dealt not necessarily with other municipal employees, but with the public at large, and also like certainly not in Somerville, but it would be different here if how you would say have to justify a new front end loader to the voters at a town meeting. Is that something you would relish doing, or don't have a problem with that, or just those kind of interactions with the public?
That's a great question. So one of my strengths is dealing with the public from working from 16 and a half. My policy, I guess, and I've been doing this since I've been in this, and when people call me, I have a hard problem with talking to people on the phone and trying to get what their problem is. They'll call about a driveway issue or maybe there's a slope that's washing out because of drainage, and to actually talk to them in person goes 1,000 times better than talk to them on the phone. So every time I take a phone call, I've done it in all 3 places I worked, I want to meet them, I want to see them out there and understand what they're doing. I know in the back of my mind I might be able to help them. We might have the resources to actually help them. But it's not fair to tell them that over the phone without looking to see what their issue is and see what else I could offer up without seeing it. So that's a strength that I am proud of, and it makes me go out and meet the person and talk about what's going on with their issue. And I think people appreciate not getting a no on the phone, or maybe, or I'll take a look at it and I'll call you back. I rather, are you home? Are you home any night? Are you home? Do you get home at 5 o'clock one night? I can swing by and talk to you. I'm more of a face-to-face person. I want to see your problem. I want to touch your problem. So that's my strength. I like doing that. And I think when you tell somebody, I really can't help you with this because at this time we have to get it funded and get this built, I think telling them in person, explaining the process in person goes a long way than just tell them on the phone, oh, we don't have any money, I can't help you with that. I think I could really get into detail with somebody in person. Expressing to people the need that the town needs, that we're going to need for equipment. I can give you examples of what why we need this equipment and what we could do with this newer equipment or a replacement equipment. I can tell you what happens if we don't get this equipment and what happens to level of service we're supplying to people. So I have no problem with that. I'm an honest person. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to exaggerate. I'm going to tell you if we don't get this piece of equipment, I'm going to have a hard time doing X, Y, and Z. If I want to plow in 6 hours, I need this to plow the city in 6 hours. If I'm missing a piece of that equipment, it's going to take longer. If I have an extra piece of equipment, it will be quicker. I just want to be honest and be upfront about it. I have no problem with selling that by giving them experience of what happened and why we need it.
Okay, one final one. How would you maintain the town's reputation for having good snow removal? There's been, I think most people would agree that our neighbor to the east doesn't have quite as good of snow removal capabilities as the west part of Newbury does. So, why do you think that is? And how can we maintain our good performance?
Well, I wouldn't fix it. I wouldn't fix it if it ain't broken. I'm going to see the system we have now and understand the system and see how it works. I'll find ways to improve it if I can, but I'm not going to change the system that works. If it's working, everybody's happy with the system, we should stick with the system that we have and find ways to maybe do it, maybe even more efficient, maybe less expensive, but I wouldn't change it. It works. The second part of the question was, I think you said what was the difference between Newburyport and West Newbury is Newburyport's a little bit more constrained on the money, on the funds, and they tend to hold back and wait the last minute before they make the call, which is not my call. I suggested that's not the way I would rather do it. I'd rather be early and spend a little bit more money to get the job done sooner and get a head start on it than wait till it's lost. I don't really a big fan for that, but that's the strategy that they've been having. We've been coming more. The last year we've improved, but we've got a long way to go.
Okay.
And go ahead. If I piggyback on that, and you make reference, just so everybody understands what you're saying, on a particular storm, you just wanted to get the equipment out earlier in that storm so you can stay ahead of it. Joe? So one thing, I'm kind of observant in things. I like the fact that you wore a tie and stuff, but you still have work boots on. Means that you're a worker and you're going to work, and you don't have shiny shoes on that you don't want to get dirty. So
you like a tie over a t-shirt, is that what you're saying?
I don't care about the tie, but he knows that he's got the work boots on and the tie. So that's that you're going to work.
I thought you were going to ask when's the last time you wore a tie.
Yeah, probably at the interview with Angus. So, thank you for coming in. Thank you. I read your resume and stuff. You have a lot of impressive things that you've accomplished in your life, and you should be proud of that. Now you're gonna, it's kind of, I don't know if it's weird is the right thing, but you've been kind of watching West Newbury from afar, working in Newburyport. You probably do the same thing when you go home to your house in Amesbury, and you see maybe how how you could, if you were the DP director over there, you might want to do something different or try to improve on things. So I don't know if you've been directly related to this, but we have a bridge that's not open now that is between West Newbury and Newburyport. Now the other shoe is on. How are you going to help West Newbury and try to, in any way, in your knowledge, and try to rectify that problem for our citizens as fast as possible? Because I think it means a lot more to West Newbury for an egress than it does Newburyport, because it's going out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's kind of almost a dead end for Newburyport in some respects, you know? So
Great question. Great question. So I was the one that closed it, obviously. The highway superintendent closed the bridge. I held it as long as I can. We tried to keep it going for as long as we can, and I was doing monthly inspections. I put 2 PK nails on the bridge, and I go up and measure it every month and see if the PK nails started to shift. So I was out there every single month with a measuring tape, standing on the middle of the bridge, trying to measure it and keep it open as long as we can. And then we my PK's nails moved, and we decided we were gonna close it with a date of June, and then the wall fell in, and we closed it sooner than that. So, I mean, that was the background of it. We tried to keep it open as long as we could, but when the wall fell in, we lost that call. So I have to switch sides now and go to the other side and figure out how do we get the bridge open. I mean, I know that Newburyport's working with a consultant, BSC. They got money to start the design. They're waiting on the grant. I know they got approval of the grant, the $400,000 bridge culvert project, and now they're underway with designing a new bridge. So at least it's going, and I think we should have West Newbury should have a big say on what's going on, because the line splits usually right down the middle of the bridge. So, you know, we should have 50% of what the bridge design and schedule and funding should be like. I mean, I don't know if we want to build a $9 million bridge and promise to pay $4.5 million. I think we need to sit together and figure out what we want to pay as funds for this bridge and what kind of bridge it's going to be. How wide, how long, what type, style, historic style. You know, a basic bridge with concrete structure. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered with the consultant. My background, as you can tell, is a traffic engineer, so I have a lot of experience with roads and bridges and transportation, so it is my strong part, I would say. So I would challenge every traffic engineer that a consultant would bring to express, you know, what, make sure we were, in the room during the design process.
I noticed on the organizational chart that you have in Newburyport that you could make a phone call and you have an electrician that's on staff, and you have janitors on staff, but you have mechanics on staff and stuff. So we do a lot of that contracted out. How would you handle after you come in and make an evaluation that a contractor that we've been subbing that out to might not be the one that you want? How would you handle that?
Great question. I mean, I think I go to Angus after I figure, well, I want to watch it out and I want to see how it goes. Maybe they're not doing it exactly how I would do it. So sometimes you have to step back a step and see how it's going, analyze what's going and see if this is the West Newbury way of doing it, and if everybody's fine with that. My way of doing it might be different than what everybody else feels like it's the right way. So step back a little bit, watch it happen. For example, if you have a bad street sweeping contractor who's not getting close to the edge of the road, or something like that, then maybe sit down and start talking to people who've watched this contract, who've worked with this contractor, talk to the town manager about my concerns. I got no problem with, I've thrown out many contractors in my time for poor performance, and usually I try to give them a chance to rectify, call them up, these are the problems, I see what's happening, and usually they'll try to fix it. They're trying to save some money, they're trying to go through the city real quick and get it done in 3 days instead of 2, or 3 days instead of 5, and once you catch them on it, usually they try to correct themselves, because if they got away with it prior to you saying something, they'll try it again next year. That's what businesses do, they try to make as much money as possible in a short amount of time, which I appreciate that. I mean, they're trying to make money. I mean, I have no problem with confronting a contractor and telling them this is what the specs are, this is what we expect to be done. But I usually try to give them a chance to correct it, and before we go to the drastic.
Good. So you do seem to have a lot of experience with the roads and engineering and traffic and so forth and so on. This job is just as the responsibility of making sure our buildings are maintained. Especially, we have a very old school, and this building is very old. So tell us a little bit more about your experience, how you could make sure that you can help maintain our buildings and maybe be the lead person on major renovations or fixing things if it ever happened.
Well, I got a lot to learn on buildings. I've been with taking care of them in Newburyport right now, and we got facilities managers do most of the work. I try to advise him the best I can. He's not trained in that, so we brainstorm a lot. We sit down and try to deal with facility management, heaters, pipes bursting. It never happens Monday through Friday through 7 and 3. It's only on the weekends, on holidays. I mean, I have a lot to learn about each system individually. And as I'm starting to learn what I learned in Newburyport, the heating system in one place is different than the second place, is different than the third place and the fourth place. Each place has unique windows, heating system, AC units, structure, how it's built, and you know, I go down the basement and I turn valves with Mike over there, and we just start turning things to try to get the water off. I'm the first one to try it and say, Mike, should I turn this? And yeah, give it a try. So, I mean, you have to get in there. I mean, especially if a vendor's not calling you back, the heating contractor's not calling back, and you got something going on in the building right now, you have to be creative and try to find a way to stop the bleeding.
So this is my last question. You mentioned about hypothetically it started snowing, tomorrow, and you were the DPW director already, and that you want to make sure they go out early enough and so forth and so on. Now, do you make that call and tell your guys to go out while you're still home in Amesbury under the covers, sleeping?
I wish.
And being warm, or tell me a little bit about
So
that.
you could ask my wife. So what I do is I stay up all night and I stare out the window for the snow.
And she tells you to go downstairs because she's sick and tired of you moving around, so she can't sleep.
So until she rolls over and says, "Why don't you just go in and just wait?" So I bought a couch back in 2015 and I moved it in my office. But I'm nervous about it, so I need to be there. So I would go before the first snowflake would come down because I want to be there when it's ready. Because it might be snowing in Amesbury, but not snowing in Newburyport, or vice versa. So I want to know what it is.
When you cross 95, it snows
world change.
2 or 3 inches more guaranteed than it does in Newburyport.
Yeah,
It
because
always
of
does.
because of the water.
Yeah. So I sit in my office I go in at 9, 10 at night sometimes, and the storm's not coming till 2. But you never know; it could come early. So I'm a little bit of I don't trust the weatherman, and I want to be in control of it. I mean, that's just.
We do have good roads in town, and through the years, our DPW directors have made sure that that have taken care of. But I'm glad that they do it. But the ones that all the credit should go to is the taxpayers, because they're the ones paying the money for it. Because as you said, you'd like to be able to do more in different towns that you've worked, but the budget was constrained. We make sure that we have that. So we're looking not to spend money frivolously and maybe, understand where you might be able to save a few bucks, but keep the quality the same.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Wayne.
There you go.
Very impressive resume. I'll echo what everyone else has said. Thanks for coming in. So, I'm sure you've had a good look at our operation here. So are there 1 or 2 things that you see as West Newbury's biggest public works opportunities, and how would you address them?
Oh, interesting. I did get the tour around town. Angus was nice enough to give me the guardrail study, which I went through a little bit. I got a couple of notes in there.
Yeah, I heard that
stickies.
too. It's pretty extensive.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, there's some great stuff that's going on now. I mean, I'm really not prepared to say what I would improve or make better. I think it looks amazing. We're driving around on Friday last week, and it was like, this is like the all-American New England town. I mean, this is beautiful. What else would you make? This is the end. This is heaven. This is what it looks like. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, let's not get sappy here.
No, but at the end of the day, I'm driving around. And I'm not making notes of things that I would fix. I couldn't come up with things I would fix right now because I'm not walking the streets. I'm not driving every single street. I'm not seeing every corner. I'm not seeing every culvert, every dam, every beaver that's blocking it. I didn't really touch all into those things. Yeah, I mean, until I get start walking up and down the street.
I think I might know the answer to this, but how would you describe your management style, and then also how would you like to be managed?
I got some great advice through my career, and one of them was just treat everybody fair, no matter who it is in your staff. Be honest with them. Don't tell them lies, or don't tell them things that they want to hear. The truth's going to go a long way. And if somebody says, "Am I really a bad employee?" You have to look at them and tell them the truth. Is like, you're not the best employee we have here, but let's find ways to make you a good employee. So honesty has been my strength, and maybe it's sometimes hard to hear, and people don't want to hear it, but don't ask the question if you don't want to hear the answer. And that's how I've done my whole career with supervising people, and sometimes it hurts to go in there and say, maybe this isn't working out, and what can we do to help it work out? And if we can't find that way, then what can I do to help you find something that might be better? So I've been very honest and fair. through my career, and all I ask is the same back. Just be honest with me. I don't, you know, if you're homesick, you're homesick. If you're not homesick, don't tell me you're homesick. I mean, it's not the way I like to play the game. So.
Very good. And then just a very kind of surface question, but why do you want to be West Newbury's DPW director?
It's a great place. I mean, I'm ready for a number one. It's near my house. It's a place where we drive through a lot. It's a great town, great people. I get to stay in the North Shore. I don't have to look for a number one job. Really, if I could do it right next door in a town that looks like they're focusing on, you know, good roads. They care about service to the public. They get great infrastructure. Just driving around, I don't need to know how much the tax rate is right now. I just know you got a great fire station, police station. The town hall looks great. Public Works is amazing. The building's new. The salt shed's new. The trucks are in great shape. I think the oldest truck was 2006, if I'm not mistaken. So the equipment's in great shape. So you're prioritizing the important stuff, and that's what I want to work with. Is being supported by the selectmen and the town manager to get my job done. I mean, this is a great place.
I'm going to piggyback on one of Joe's questions, just to try to find out a little bit more about you. Because it just hit me when you said that. Why do you want to be a number one? It hit me when you were saying it to Joe. I mean, a lot of people would say, hey, listen, I'm happy I'm in number two, and I don't have to get all the crap from you know what I mean? I can just have somebody else get all that, and I'll just go about working. So why do you want to be a number one?
I don't have to answer Angus's questions.
Yeah, I don't have to answer Angus's questions. Let XYZ do it, and I'll just...
I've always wanted to be a number one. I mean, from 20 years ago, I can't lie to you. I can't say I was
No,
happy.
I'm not asking
I
you.
can't. I've never had number two. I'm a policy I'm a policy and procedure person. I like to have control. I'm big control, and I'm willing to answer to my failures, to my success. I got great ideas, and I've been fortunate enough that the people who oversee me, my number ones who oversee me, have pretty much listened to my advice and my policies and my suggestions. And if Angus calls my references, you ask all of them, and they'll say, we can't believe he's not a number one yet because he's a leader. I'm confident in what I do, but I do ask questions when I'm not sure what I'm doing. And if you ask me something I'm not aware of, I will look right at you in the face and say, I have no idea how to do this. I'm not going to lie. As Angus found out during the interview process, a couple things he asked me, I looked at him and I said, no idea. But I'll learn. I'll ask.
Thank you. Any more, Archie?
Just one, yeah.
Sure.
Wayne, have you, I'd say our town is somewhat concerned about energy conservation and so forth. Have you done anything in the facilities in Newburyport or other things that have any projects related to trying to save energy for the town?
So Newburyport, we just finished doing the street lighting. All the street lights we turned to LED. So we purchased the lights 2 years before I got to Newburyport, but it didn't officially happen until like last year because National Grid and paperwork and lawyers.
So they bought them from the utility, from
Pretty
National
much they
Grid.
almost gave them to us because National Grid didn't even want to maintain them anymore. So we got them for pennies on the dollar.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to maintain them anymore. So once we received the lights over, we did a LED conversion project. So I wrote the contract and I managed the vendor, Coviello Electric, who did the work. In Cambridge, you see my resume, I turned the traffic signals to LEDs. And originally they wanted to do them all once. They wanted to give me $1.2 million to change all the LEDs overnight. And I said, well, the light bulbs are $560 right now. Every year that goes by, the price of them will go down. So before we do the savings, I did a whole chart how to save money. I said, if we do over a 5-year period, we won't have all the lights going out at the same time, which was my concern that all of a sudden all the red lights would be out in town because we replaced them all in the same week. Mm-hmm. And I believe the price would gone down. So we went from paying $560 a green bulb to $350 a green bulb to $90 a green bulb at the end of the project.
Wow.
So that was huge. And I was told by somebody that the price was going to go down. So I had a little,
No, I mean,
I had
you
a
just
little
figure
something.
that too, yeah.
But it was like, why would we pay $560? Well, next year it's going to be low. I didn't know how much lower, but we knew it was going to be lower. So we did a little bit at a time. It took around 5 or 6 years to convert all of Cambridge. I think we had around 200 intersections to LEDs. And so, and the electric savings was amazing.
Okay.
I'm almost positive you could probably change all the light bulbs in our traffic stuff, probably after lunch one afternoon. Okay, unless there's any other questions, Angus, is there anything that you'd like to say or any direction?
One credential that Wayne brings to the table, which I think is terrific, is he's been through the Chief Procurement Officer training and has that certification, so.
Oh, good. Joe, I would want to turn to you for this, please.
Okay, I move to appoint Wayne Emerald as the DPW Director, contingent upon successful salary negotiations with the town manager for term ending 6/30/2019. All of our terms in June 30th, the fiscal year, so it's routine.
Will that one?
That's how we've done it.
That's how we've done it? Okay. Second.
2019.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Thank you. Jen? Very much. Hold on. Angus? The question from the floor was, what was the salary range for that position, please?
It's roughly 92 to 112. If you want the specific numbers, I can get you know, but that's pretty close.
Wayne, congratulations.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
So when does this all, if it's successful and everything, when will you be starting?
We haven't talked yet, but I'd like to give the report sometime.
What does that mean?
4 or 5 weeks. I would like to try to give some time. I got some things on the table I'd really love to finish that I promised I would get done.
Sidewalks? No, I'm just trying to be, again, trying hard.
We had talked about roughly a 30-day transition, so we'll be working out specifics and.
Perfect. Thank you. Have a good night, sir. Thank you very much for coming in. And how are you? Are you his wife that he was saying all those glowing things about or anything that you? Okay, nice to meet you.
Go into work at 1 a.m. so you can wait for the snow to fall.
She can go back to sleep, but I'll be walking back.
Good night. Thank you for, before we, I want to thank Angus for going through that process and bringing us a very well, and it seems like a successful candidate. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Proposed amendment to the town facilities rental policy to allow for rental by town staff.
The current town facilities rental policy sets out who can rent, and I have prepared a proposed amendment to add town resident or staff, which would allow a staff person to rent the facility, and the way it's written, they would be charged the non-resident rate. Right.
I would actually,
I would think they should be,
yeah.
that seems, then you're not accomplishing anything because then they are or not.
Yeah, I would say,
Then there'd be no advantage to being, you see
well,
what I mean?
there is because non-residents can't rent it,
Oh, okay.
other than whatever.
Well, I'm told that they're, and I would defer to Mary, but I'm told that non-resident birthday parties have not been allowed. And I would like to host my daughter's birthday party.
Well, this is not all about you, but hold on for 1 second. This is not all about you hosting your birthday party. We've had a discussion about that. Didn't we, and it would be a nice perk for employees, you know, being part of it, to be able to do it also if there were non-residents.
Is there an issue that you would see?
No, the board in 2017 talked about not having non-residents use the annex for private parties. So it really didn't address the old town hall. So that's what was discussed back then.
Okay.
And it was because the rug was getting really in bad shape.
It's what it is, yeah.
Is there an issue that you see? Because with the
same as resident.
fee, not a non-resident fee.
It's obviously your policy. It's obviously where I have a request before you, I
Make the motion, Joe?
I move to approve amending the town policy on rental of town facilities with the amendment that employees get the same rate as residents.
And they're allowed to rent it.
Well, that's the amendment.
Yeah, okay. Second.
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, request for a waiver of insurance requirements in policy or rental of town facilities for town employees, rental of Old Town Hall for a children's birthday party. Okay? I know, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Allow it and then say no to it. Okay, so,
I move to approve a waiver of insurance requirements in the town-owned policy for town employee rental of the Old Town Hall.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Establish date and time for holiday tree lighting.
Mr. Chairman, I thought this has been long established,
Yeah, it's always the Thursday after Thanksgiving.
so what's the question?
She put it on.
Yes, I did, you're right.
yeah.
Wait, the chair.
We just.
I know,
wanted
but
to
I
vote.
didn't know if there was, I didn't know if there was more, I think it's more, I think, to get it out there in that time, to talk about it, because we generally do it the week before, something like that.
That's exactly right.
So the date on the notice, Thursday, November 29th, is the date for this year.
What day is Thanksgiving? The week
It's
before
early.
that?
Yeah, it's early.
Oh.
You know, there's an extra
Thanksgiving is November 22nd,
Yeah,
so this is the 29th.
yeah. So maybe that was a question too, that it's still in November, but it's, you
Just
know,
wanted to
It's just a
bring that.
really early Thanksgiving.
yeah, we could do it maybe the 6th.
You're the tree lighting person.
Yeah.
You're the baritone.
Let's have it, let's just keep it the same way, even though it's
Yeah.
late. Just so, because everybody knows that, and the girl, you know. So if you could, it's the Thursday after Thanksgiving, get it published on all our social media, maybe the beginning of November. Let Halloween pass, right? And then remind everybody and get in touch with everybody that we always got in touch with before. So, did you do that, or did I do that, or how did we do that? You and I will work on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, town managers updates. Angus?
Okay, just a brief update on the town audit. The auditors were here for a couple of full days, well into the evening last week. Things are proceeding very well, and we expect to have the audit closed out potentially later this month, but certainly in November if not. So we're well ahead of last year's pace, and once that's presented, I would expect we'd bring the auditor in to present their findings.
Normally what we do.
Yep.
So if the audit will be completed in November, when will we have his report, his written findings? You're saying November, we'll have his written findings?
That was my understanding. I can clarify that with him, but
Okay.
I took that to mean that it would be totally complete.
I would be very anxious to hear his report 6 months early this year.
Yes, yeah, I think it's, with the, as you know, the early December is when the selectmen will be setting the budget message for FY20. So I think if we can get the audit and kind of, that's a nice sequence.
Good. Next?
The next item, Chairman Kemper had asked this to be placed on for discussion with the issue of dogs at the reservoir.
I gotten some complaints and some pictures sent to me about some aggressive dogs up at the reservoir, and it seems to be, I guess we have
Or the artichoke,
The
the
ar-
one on Moulton Street?
Moulton Street.
Moulton Street, okay.
Okay. And it seems that our policy kind of says that as long as it's a leash or in control, and I think people are assuming that as long their dogs can run around, and as long as they call them and they come back to them, eventually,
Leash or voice control?
yeah, and their dogs can just run around, and then if they call them and they finally come back to them, I think they feel that that's under voice control, even though they might have harassed somebody or made them scared. So that's a heavy area with a lot of dog walking and a lot of non-dog walking. I would actually ask if we could have instruct Angus to put up some specific, dogs have to be leashed if you're going to be walking them in this area or something.
Well, that's,
I go on that I run on that a lot, and people come from, because I see the license plate, out-of-state plates there, and people, most of the dogs, are not leashed, and people are using the reservoir also to, you know, the dogs are practicing retrieving and stuff in the reservoir, and I yell at them, and they just laugh at me. How much I can do, I'm in my shorts, and they've got two Dobermans, I'm gonna lose that argument.
What are you asking?
That we put some signs up that says that dogs have to be leashed in this particular area.
I think the bylaws, though, that might be contrary to the bylaws.
Yeah, but can't we make exceptions to it, Mike?
Well, I mean, remember, this property is under the control of the Board of Selectmen. I mean, this isn't the public street or other people's property. You know, this is, you're putting regulations on this parcel of property saying they must be leashed. I don't know what kind of teeth you have on it. The statute, the bylaw actually says immediate control, which is something that we might have to take another look at. And basically, because, you know, it's too nebulous a term to what constitutes immediate control.
Exactly, because people are immediate control, the dog can be 50 yards away, and the dog comes back, but whatever he does in between that, that's immediate control, and some,
And
you could argue that.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they would argue it the other way around.
We did amend the bylaw to say anyone who has like 4 dogs, you know, has to be leashed. I mean, if they're not on a leash and they have 4 or more, it's automatic fine.
So what I would ask is that we put up the signs, and then maybe in the future we amend the bylaw. Is that okay with everybody?
I'm fine with saying that dogs have to be leashed at that reservoir property.
Okay. So we,
Second, yeah.
all in favor? Aye. So if you could have that get done,
Okay.
great.
That's just Moulton Street.
Yep. Okay, the next thing, number J, Angus? If you need to take
Yes.
some notes on that, we can.
Yes, so as you know, the personnel policy speaks to payment for qualified part-time workers for holidays, but my question is just to understand past practice and what we should be looking at for those dates when offices are closed that are not holidays. So I'm referring specifically to closing early the day before Christmas, closing the day after Thanksgiving, as well as in the event of weather-related closures or late openings. What has been practice?
I think we need to talk about it separately.
Yep.
So you're saying this is for, hypothetically, it snows and we're closed on a Tuesday, but there are some part-time people that weren't scheduled on Tuesday. So, right?
This is not a holiday.
It's not a holiday, whatever, and they're not due any compensation just because they weren't scheduled that day.
That's correct. Yeah, I would say if you were
Right.
scheduled to work and we elect to close for whatever reason, they should be compensated. They weren't scheduled to work, they weren't scheduled to work.
And I agree that that is the nub of the issue, and I don't know with some employees what their schedule is. So my direction going forward is to work so that I know what people's scheduled work time is,
Yep. Okay, and now that's,
which would be a good step forward.
okay, and then what else? Does that cover, does that
That was
blanket
really
thing
my
covers
only-
everything, right?
That was
Okay, good.
really my question, yeah.
The next one? And hopefully, we don't have any days off. Just because it's snowing out, that doesn't mean they can't come to work. Okay? Or rain.
All right, and stormwater management, when I put this on, I had intended to have a memo in the packet with all that went on last week. That didn't happen, so I'll just tell you in brief, and I will recommend that I bring this issue back and we can discuss it. I just want to make sure we all know what needs to get done this fiscal year. So there are there's 100 little things, but I'll focus on the 4 kind of bigger policy things. By June 30th, we'll need to have an updated stormwater management plan. That's a pretty comprehensive document that lays out a lot of roles and responsibilities, which we then need to carry out over the subsequent years of the 5-year plan. We need to have an updated or actually perhaps a new, I'm not sure if we have one, is illicit discharge and detection elimination policy, and that includes training of staff on that. That has to be in place by June 30th. And then the other two work items are, typically this would be done by bylaw. One would be on the management of construction on a site with erosion controls and those kinds of things. The other would be a post-construction stormwater management policy or bylaw. I think a bylaw would have more teeth. So part of why I wanted to just bring this to your attention tonight is to the extent that some, I don't think all of these, but I think some of what I've discussed I do see as a town meeting issue, and therefore to hit the April warrant, we're going to need to have at least a pretty good sense of where we're going, if not a good draft, ideally by the end of the calendar year. So with the new director coming in, he brings a lot to the table in that regard, and I think we can do that. I just wanted everyone to understand that's going to be one of his work items coming right out of the gate.
Is there available, not like off the books templates, but the other community, we don't need to reinvent
Yes.
reinvent the culvert, so to
Yeah,
speak.
we
I mean,
had excellent policies in place in my old town. I've also gotten samples from Merrimack. They hired an outside consultant to help them with all of this, and I have, and they are templates. If it works, obviously things need to be calibrated to our staffing structure and that kind of thing. But yeah, we'll start with a head start, building on what others have done.
yeah, and that's what I was going to ask. Would it be, especially with you being new and the new director, would it be help at least this year to hire a consultant? I don't know.
I think what I've been focusing on is, as you know, we have the LTA, Local Technical Assistance Support through MVPC. That covers 70 hours of work a year, half of which are dedicated to GIS mapping. And I've met with them and corresponded a number of times on wanting to tighten up our work scope for this fiscal year. And the two items that we're looking to advance through LTA, one is stormwater, one is support in the open space update, or the open space plan update. So I'm working with them and with Brian Murphy, our rep to MVPC, to basically tighten up a work scope. My sense is that with the new director, with the stormwater working group we've got set up, and with some limited assistance from MVPC to fill some gaps, I'm hoping we can do it entirely in-house with MVPC.
Good.
That's my
Okay.
goal.
Is this,
Yeah.
I was looking through our correspondence, and we had an agenda for the Merrimack Planning, MVPC, on the 18th. And it said number 8 was focus on West Newbury. Was this, what's going on there?
Well, they had asked a couple of months ago to host a meeting here, and so that the meeting will be held in the annex. It's the same night as the CPA public hearing, which will be in this room. But I think this is, as you may know, Karen Kennard is fairly new as the director there. And so part of what she's doing is hosting meetings in different communities in the region.
But number 8 of the
Right.
agenda
Yep.
say focus on West Newbury. What's that about, you know?
I will find out.
You know,
It's
you know,
funny,
it
I
might
talked
be
to
all-
I saw
Karen
that
probably
too,
4
Glenn, and I
times
wondered
last week,
myself,
and
yeah.
it didn't come up, so I'll.
Okay,
That's them, not.
That's them.
Not you or me.
so we don't have to show up or,
Right, I'd like to make an appearance just to welcome people, but I've
Yep.
got to be at the CPC that night.
Okay. Okay.
anything else?
I had one to ask Angus. Do you, just so the public knows, the grant that West Newbury agreed to host for the technical grant for the Pentucket, the Pentucket did get the grant, so
Did they?
They did.
they did. So that's just good news. So,
Not announced yet.
what's that?
It's not announced yet.
Oh, it's not? You're kidding me? Oh,
The last,
regret for
the last 2 minutes has been a problem with your TV sets, and things have been said that,
I'm sorry, I'm
just don't, please don't report on that.
You know what, I didn't even know you.
Good. I said something about that. My dinner is almost ready, so I want to
Should
get
have told
going.
me to be quiet.
So, okay, so follow up on meeting assignments.
So I have a couple of things on my list.
Negotiate
To
with the...
correct the poster on the take-back of medications. To
Yeah, oh, good,
add the
yeah.
location to that.
I already forgot.
Add the library proclamation to the announcements on the town website and social media. Advertise the tree lighting sometime after Halloween.
Yeah.
And we'll do that a couple of times leading up to the event, including day of. And then work on getting signs into the reservoir on.
And negotiating with the DPW director.
Right, yes.
I mean, I
that's-
think that,
That's
Yeah.
probably top of this list.
yeah.
Yep, that's, I'll
Okay.
be working on that
Good.
tomorrow.
Okay, placing things on future agenda. I have a couple, but I'm not sure if they need to be if we have to talk about it or not. Something that came to me on Maple Street, there was a boy doing a Eagle Scout project, and he put a little sign with, I think, a 4x4 equivalent to a mailbox sign for the rectory down there for the, that was his part of his, and we charged him a $50 permit fee, building permit fee for that. I don't know what our policy is about that, or
How did you find that out, Glenn?
I found it out because another citizen was walking by and saw the permit displayed like it's supposed to be, and asked the mom and dad and the kid as they were sweating and working on it. And then that individual texted me and said, thanks for having that warm town feeling, small town feeling of making this poor kid get a permit. And I said, well, I didn't make him. He's just probably following direction, and Glenn from the building department's following direction. Just because he's probably a Boy Scout and did his due diligence, probably asked the questions that nobody else asks. So he got the answers maybe that he didn't want to hear. But can we look into this somehow, like how that would happen, and maybe we need to, I guess Glenn doesn't have the authority to waive different things, but we might want to seem a little bit user-friendly, so to speak.
In Westford, there was something similar where they had always waived fees for nonprofits, but it wasn't in any written policy. We had a pretty new building commissioner. He charged a fee to a nonprofit because he was by the book. Didn't know that was always how they done it, and so that kind of blew up. And so we amended the fee policy so that he could follow the rules, and that now it was a written rule, not an unwritten rule.
I mean, this
So-
isn't top on your list? because
Well,
you're
but
a
this
little
is
busy.
low-hanging fruit. I'll talk to Glenn Clossy tomorrow, and what I would think would be an amendment to the fees
Okay.
that his department brings to this board.
So another thing, I don't know if we need to have this on an agenda or not, but I was brought to the attention too, and I think people think it's town generated, but I guess National Grid have contractors out cutting down trees on people's yards recently, and then people came up to me at a meeting at the high school last week, or actually texted me, we did something, and asked, like, when is the town going to come and get the rest of the trees that are in our front yard? So, do we have it? I mean, I know it's a a private company taking down trees for a public service, and then these big, huge trees are on their land. They're not in the right-of-way. Do we have, what do we do about that? Because right off the
Are
bat...
there trees on the right-of-way that
No.
they're taking down?
Yes, but then the remnants of those trees are on their private property, and then they took a couple of them, and then it's been a week and a half, and this big thing's killing their grass and on their front yard, and they haven't come back for it yet. And it's happened to a few other people, so, and right off the bat, everybody thinks it's the town's fault. So we need to maybe, I don't know if we can help facilitate this, but we need to get some public relations, so to speak, that this has nothing to do with the town. This has to do with National Grid and who.
They call National Grid.
Yeah, and they talked to me, then they talked to Angus, and Angus looked into it, but we need to, I don't know. It's kind of weird, You try to get into National Grid and see if you can even talk to somebody. So these private people are cutting down the trees and just leaving the things.
Are they third-party contractors?
Yes,
Yeah.
third-party contractors,
Okay.
just leaving these in people's front yard, killing the grass and, whatever. But they automatically think it's us.
I can see that they can't find anybody to talk to, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. So everybody thinks it's us, so I don't want to get a bunch of bad publicity around town, and it's not us. So I don't know if that has to go in, I don't know. I don't think that has to go into a future agenda, or maybe just kind of look into it. All right?
So I'm aware of the Maple Street. If any of you have other addresses to send to us, we can, just to be aware of that, but.
We might even have a better community phone number for the National Grid than
Yep.
they do.
Yep.
Because we do have a late,
Municipal liaison.
thank you.
Yeah, but are they, do they exist in non-emergency situations? I don't know.
Yes, but.
They do?
I don't know if they're that
We're
active.
not the people to call.
Yes. Okay, you have anything for future agenda?
Well, just my continuing question, when are we gonna have the GLS people back?
Okay.
Well, actually, I was gonna talk about that was one of my items.
Okay.
Okay, what do you have?
Do you have anything else?
No, that's what I wanted to talk about.
You?
I was gonna say that second, but, I think we're halfway through the financial policy, so let's finish that. I think we spent 2.5 hours and we kind of carved out pretty specifically, and we were gonna come back and kind of finalize it. So I think we should invite the finance committee in and
Finalize it? When you want to do that? Angus, when you want to do that?
I think, perhaps the second November meeting, maybe the first, if we could pull it together that quickly, but I think the second.
I think if we, I was just gonna say, if we really got it organized, then we would have the,
we just gotta do it.
so yes, but we could have them so that they could be warrants for the annual town meeting instead of, because otherwise it'll get lost in the shuffle. Then we'll be trying to create the warrants at the last second. Maybe we could sort of even get to the point where we want to actually have these as
Act on it.
bylaws.
Act
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things there too that are just policies.
Yeah.
There's a combination of things. I mean, I think it's pretty easy. I mean,
So is the second meeting in November good?
Well, actually, as I'm thinking about the calendar, because it's the 29th, so this first meeting is actually mid-November. So I think that's a good month away. I think as long as FinCom's available and DLS is available,
Let's do it.
we could look at that.
Well, let's try it, not on the 29th.
No, but to Joe's point, do we want to have us talk with the FinCom before DLS is in?
well, I don't think, my own opinion for the policies, I don't think she needs to come back for that because we just need to vote what we want to vote on that. I think it would be a better use of her time on the financial forecasting tool, which I don't fully understand, and she's never come in for that to explain. I know that's more of an internal.
So why don't we try to get some dates from her, and that might stretched out, but let's do the, with the FinCom on that first meeting in November.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mike,
The first,
you need to use the microphone.
the scheduled meeting date would be Monday, the 12th, but that is a holiday.
That's Veterans Day, so we're talking about the 13th.
Tuesday, you're gonna meet on Tuesday then.
Thank you. Okay, and anything else? You had a first one. That was your second
The
one.
next thing is, there was a pretty rampant discussion on some of the social media sites of the high school, middle school building project. We said originally we were going to talk about it at this meeting, and then we put it off because we didn't have numbers to talk about. So I think we should really try to do that for the next meeting. We don't know the numbers, and Pawtucket's not going to know the number well into the spring. So that's not the purpose. The purpose is just to have a strategy discussion based on the preliminary number that they had put out there, which will change how we would potentially fund it.
Good. That is definitely on
And
the
then
plan.
taxpayers will have somewhat of an idea that they won't be getting a
Real.
$1,000 tax increase.
Yep.
It's more like $400 or $500.
Okay, so we'll definitely have that on next week. We did, okay, anything else?
Okay, that's good, that's good.
Okay, that's it. Okay, anything that we need to do or not do? Because I'm gonna adjourn the meeting.
Can I just ask you,
You-
you're gonna have a meeting
you need-
prior to town
Oh,
meeting?
yeah,
Next
I
week?
don't know if what we will do, but
It's always helpful.
it's always helpful in case we have to vote on it. So town meeting's at 7 o'clock. I would have a posted meeting over there starting at 6:30.
Over there,
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay, thank you.
And if something comes up in the interim that we might need an executive session or do something, then Angus.
Earlier over here.
Yeah, we can do that early over here and then go over there, but Angus is in control of that. If something that you need, maybe, if you need us to agree upon something or whatever with the new DPW, if you want to do that. And,
Why don't you and I check in on draft agenda like we normally do?
yep. Okay. Second, all in favor? Aye.